In this video, I'm going to show you how I took this painting from this to this. So I've been seeing a lot of that quote, just make it exist first, you can make it good later, floating around. And it kind of got me thinking as I've been working on this painting, what happens after you make it exist? I'm gonna give some possibly seemingly contradictory advice in this video, and I'm gonna be showing the process of how I started, failed, and rectified this painting. My first piece of advice is to just persevere, to do exactly what the quote says, and just make it exist first, even if you haven't got the slightest clue of how you're gonna make that happen. This painting started from an idea that I wanted to show what I stand for on my sleeve. The things that I value and even things that I enjoy and stand for and stand against. I had no idea how I was going to do that, other than I wanted to do a traditional self-portrait, which even at the start, that wasn't even a solid idea, but I'll go into that more in next week's video. So a traditional self-portrait is exactly where I started. So I'm just sitting here with an underpainting. My original idea included a cracked mirror or glass, but I ended up scrapping that, so you won't see that again. And then I'm just doing an underpainting for my face, which I'm referencing in a mirror just to the side there. As you can see, there's a bit of a jump there. My phone ran out of storage. And then here I'm just solidifying some details, and I didn't record this part, but this is what I ended up with at the end of the session. Just putting in the darkest areas and where I really want those details to stick, so like my freckles and some jewelry. Again, here I'm just blocking out the darkest areas, so the hair, and then I'm coming in and just adding back some of my highlights because obviously you can't see me, my reference on screen, but there was a really nice bounce light coming on the right side of my face. So I wanted to include that, and I wanted to make sure I remembered to include that. Now, here is where I start making mistakes. So in my garage studio, I have 4 light sources. And so I had a warm light that I wanted to use to give myself some cooler shadows and very warm highlights. But unfortunately, the 3 other lights that are my main sources of light for like actually painting are 2 fluorescent above head, very cool lights, and then 1 kind of neutral, just like normal lamp in the middle of the garage. So this did make it really hard to see my lighting and make correct color choices. The camera kind of skews the color, but my shadows were way too purple and the light was too yellow instead of being like a warm red color. And I feel like it kind of just made me look kind of sickly. And with my haphazard painting of this underpainting, I lost a lot of the detail that I had. And because I was sitting not head on to my canvas, I did end up skewing a lot of my facial features to the left. So I think in the end of this first pass of color, my nose and mouth are completely to the left of the center line that I originally had. And as you can see in the video here, I just keep going over the same places and I keep trying to put down different colors and just trying to like fix things. Usually I can just tell myself to trust the process, but I could feel myself losing a lot of hope here. I knew that I wasn't getting it right. And the more I added, the more uneasy I became about this painting. My second mistake, which you can already kind of see here, was the fact that I started adding details way too early. I started blending and detailing before my values and colors were even correct, which is something I'm usually pretty good at. But I think with the fact that I just wanted to jump in and I just wanted to actually get something down because I felt kind of under time pressure getting this video out, and the fact that I had a pretty ambitious idea, I was like, okay, well, this will be the easiest part. I'll just get this under my belt and then we'll move on and everything will be fine. And everything was not fine. And this freaking nose was the absolute worst part of this painting. I can go on all day about the colors and how much I messed them up, but this nose, I think I changed it 2 or 3 times before I ended up just completely wiping it out and starting again. There were so many problems and I did so many passes. Again, the angle of where I was sitting meant that everything was skewed to the side, but also because the chair I sit on while I paint is so uncomfortable. So I was constantly adjusting my posture, changing how I was sitting throughout this painting process because I was just so uncomfortable, which is usually fine because I can just adjust and figure out a spot that is comfortable, or I can stand and walk around. But because I wanted to stay in the same spot so that the features on my face would be consistent, it meant that I was sitting very uncomfortably, and I ended up slouching and changing my facial position way too often. And it just meant that the little finer features were a lot harder to capture. And like I said, not having my values beforehand made it a lot harder to stick to my original underpainting and my original planning. Here I thought, you know what, let's just add the hair, let's put in some of those mid to dark values in the background that I'm going to be using anyway. But again, I did not make them dark enough. I wanted the hair on my right side to be almost black, which obviously it is not. But I thought maybe this will tie it together and it'll look fine and it'll look cohesive again. It did not. You can see me going in over the nose again. You can see my eyes being filled in with details, but none of it is ready for that. Now, remember how I said I started making mistakes earlier? At least those were just mistakes in my process, and I knew that if I stepped back, I could probably fix them. But this background is filled with errors. So my biggest mistake number 3, was not standing back. It meant that specifically for this background, my guidelines were completely uneven and they barely line up to begin with. And then again, I'm sitting askew, so my reference is front on and the painting is not. So everything looks like it's kind of in line to me from where I'm sitting. And then here you can see the second I start doing color blocking, it's just completely wrong as well. I made so many mistakes. I think it just ended up I think those mistakes just stuck, and in the end they stayed on the painting. Yeah, you can see here I'm blissfully unaware, blending in everything just to rub it all out the second I step back from my canvas. My second piece of advice is to step back. Good job, you made the thing exist, but now what? Now what when you feel that you've worked hard and you've done a good job of making it happen, but you haven't quite figured out how to make it good yet? What's helped me most is to step back, literally and metaphorically. Physically stepping back from a painting obviously helps you see your mistakes, as we have learned. And stepping back mentally, I think just helps you learn from what you've done, see the mistakes or the opportunities you've missed in your art. Coming back even just an hour, a day, a week maybe later, gives you the opportunity to look at what you've created with fresh eyes, to study what you feel wrong, or even to ask for critique. The more I think about it, the more I feel that this quote is really about the latter half. I know as artists we can harp on about making it happen first and then figuring out where to go from there. But it's the figuring it out that teaches us something. That's where the lesson and the discipline to actually come back to something that you don't like and make it happen and make it good after the fact. Okay, and here we start on session 2, not including the underpainting. As you can see, I'm trying to do it right. So here I was just going in with my darkest values first. It was still a bit too warm, so I went back to fix that. I feel like I was kind of cheating with this now because I gave up on my awful lighting situation. I ended up just turning off all the lights except the warm light that I wanted, and I took a reference photo. And because I had a reference now, I could make a clear distinction between subtle, cool shadows and where warmth was really supposed to hit my face. So a lot of what I'm blocking in first is in very cool tones, and then as soon as those highlights come in, they're a bit warmer, more on the orange side. Because I knew I basically had to start over, I wasn't afraid of being more blocky with my strokes, and I was really pushing the high and low lights. I did want to keep some things that I could actually see that the photo didn't pick up, like that bounce light on the side and the warmth in the lips and the cooler tones in the hair. I found tonal adjustments a lot easier working from dark to light, obviously. That's why it's a technique that is widely used. But that did lead to my favorite part of this painting, which is the way I was able to push the blue in the shadows. I just love the way the light looks with the highlights meeting shadow, with the subsurface scattering orange line between them, and then the almost bright blue right in the transition of the shadow. And then putting the highlights in finally made me feel like the struggles were worth it. The whole face just kind of comes together. The warmth really comes to the surface, especially in the lips and the ears. And obviously it's not finished. I still need to do quite a bit of refinements and the background again and all the other elements that I need to add, but I will be going over that in my next video. I think this quote has become incredibly relevant to me. I've been doing YouTube for 5 weeks and this is my 8th video now, so I don't really feel like I have much experience yet to improve from and learn from, but I've been taking as much from other people as I can to see what works for others and to learn from the people that have gone through all this already, and having that purposeful perspective both with my own art, my own videos, and other people's art and videos. I feel like it's giving me the tools to make it good, but I'm still getting there. But I don't think there's one piece of art that I've made, whether it be music or painting or videos, that I haven't learned from. As always, thank you so much for your time. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like and a comment because it helps YouTube push this video to more people like you. If you've liked watching me work, I post once a week on both Instagram and YouTube. And if you'd like to support me more directly, I have donations available on my Ko-fi page and commissions available on my website. Okay, thank you for watching. Bye bye!